even before gym, as we kick things off here on Blackburn LE. Of course, in the bottom left-hand corner, map spawning all the way in the bottom left-hand corner, we have a blue Protoss player coming down from the land of China. He is, of course, the Slayer of Time himself, representing Good Game Gaming. GGG! He is Cyan.
And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner of Blackburn LE, we have the other Time Slayer, the Red Terran player himself, representing Invictus Gaming. It is XY.
Subject of Clan XY fans.
Oh yeah, the proponents of it all. And am I mistaken? Was it the previous season? I think winter, where XY took a series off of Time. Did that happen? Am I crazy?
I think it was a little bit before then. It did happen at some point where Time was knocked down to the lower bracket, and I believe it was because of XY. But yeah, I'm having trouble trying to remember the specific dates and the specific season that did happen.
Yeah. Regardless, again, two very dominant forces in the Chinese region. You know, they have forced those upsets in the past, taking down players like Time. But how do they shape up against each other?
That's what we're about to find out. And obviously, when you're looking at it, at least on the surface, you kind of think, if you can take out Time, you can take out XY, since this is the same matchup that Cyan's going to be playing in. But a lot has changed since DreamHack winter of 2021.
Oh yeah, times do change. And we'll see how this opens up here. So far, nothing too crazy. You know, the Raxes were thrown down at home. We do have a Reaper first coming out from XY as he zooms out across the map. Everything looking pretty normal from the side of our Terran player here, as, oh, he's actually looking around for potential proxies.
Huh. I wonder what Cyan has done to XY in the past to make him this paranoid.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised here. So, okay, the Reaper actually turns around and will clean up this probe. Because the Reaper stuck around, the Zealot has to wait a little bit before diving in. There was no SCV scout, by the way, so XY doesn't know that it was a Zealot first. Wow.
Yeah, it is pretty ballsy coming out from XY to just go in with zero information. Now, this is the biggest of deals. These Marines will be able to deal with the Zealot, the Reaper as well, but this is a pretty decent amount of lost mining time. A pretty massive delay on the natural base.
Yeah, exactly. The natural CC still hasn't finished. The Stalker rocks up as well. Looks like he will get one of these Marines, maybe even a second, only one for the time being. And how good is the control here? Can he delay the CC even further?
For a little while longer.
But now we have a second Stalker
coming up.
Yeah.
It's honestly not too much when it comes to the firepower of XY. He's done a pretty good job of keeping his Marines alive, but he is starting to lose a couple of SCVs.
Oh, yeah, another SCV goes down. The Marines are going to get picked up as well. The Reaper is trying to dive on that one weakened Stalker, but the Reaper goes down. Everything goes down.
Not at all worth it coming out here from XY. Cyan, if you look at the battle report, lost one probe and one Zealot. XY has lost 4 Marines, 1 Reaper, 2 SCVs, and got a natural base delayed by so long.
Yeah, honestly, Cyan, a little bit of miscontrol there. He probably could have forced his way up this ramp, but now these 2 Marines somehow were able to keep 3 Stalkers at bay. The control is pretty good. XY is holding onto his natural.
Oh, finally one of these Stalkers will go down. And with the Cyclone coming out, not only will another Stalker get taken out, but it will also secure XY's position here in the natural base.
Oh, there we go. Cyclone even cleans up the 3rd Stalker here. So finally, all that pressure has been relieved, and we had a medevac made.
Yeah, you know, for the eventual drop of tank and Marine.
But the Marines are dead, Yaku.
Yeah. That doesn't mean they can't be lifted into the medevac.
Oh god, yeah, so Cyan was looking to go for a drop, and he was stalwart when it comes to his build. Like, he did not deter, and because of that, like, there's not really much for him to send out. A lot of the Marines were cleaned up earlier. He's going across the map with 4 Marines and a tank.
Yeah, honestly not something you see too often in TVP, but at least not in the main base anyway. But he is just looking to secure a bit of a foothold outside that natural base. If possible, delay a third from getting up and running.
Exactly. Meanwhile, Blink is done here for Cyan. He has been able to slow down this push. One more shot. And, the Cyclone goes down immediately before the lock-on tank will siege up. Oh, in between these bases.
And this will apply a little bit of pressure, but I can't imagine, it's going to take too much for Cyan to break out of this position. The tank is super exposed. Again, it's just 5 Marines. Now 7, but that still ain't much.
Yeah, it's XY, he's rallying everything across him. No, the tank is going to get intercepted. Not like this.
Best case scenario right now for Cyan, and he sets himself up for a very secure surround as well on top of this tank.
Yeah, here we go from behind and from the front. Cyan, he just collapses upon this army. The tank goes down, and XY tries to commit even further. Goes for the drop, doesn't go into the main there.
Yeah, I don't think he'd be able to get too much in the main base, and he has to be worried about the counterattack as well. So XY just decides to keep that drop alive and dip back into his own bases.
Yeah, exactly. This is a little bit of a scary moment. There is only one tank here to defend, but with one tank, it looks like the natural should be safe for now. But Cyan, he can blink into the main. Uh-oh.
Yeah, there's a tank in position and a couple of Marines. Well, their position deal with the frontal blink, but not the back blink.
There we go. He blinks into the back, and it looks like, yeah, the add-ons are going to be dealt with. A couple of Marines are here to help defend, but they don't have stim. They don't have any upgrades at all.
Yeah, definitely appreciate that Cyan was being a little bit more conservative with his blink. He just took out the add-on, and that was about all he went for. He takes out the tank as well with these double immortals. One of them getting a little bit bruised, but it's not the biggest of deals right now.
Oh my god, Cyan is pulling XY apart right now. I love the way that he was able to utilize these immortals. It's not really very characteristic. The Sim is going to get focused down. Can he save it? The repairs
will be enough to keep it alive, so XY will, at the very least going into the mid-game, have stim available for him. A lot of his production is delayed, but he is not out of the water yet.
Yeah, I think that may have been game if Stim got cancelled. Like, Stim is such a crucial upgrade right now. Thankfully, XY does keep it here in his main base. Cyan, though, still sharking around looking for a way in. He did send his immortals all the way back home, so they're not vulnerable. They're not going to be left exposed. Cyan just sharking with stalkers.
Yeah, even trying to get a little bit of a drop here with Zealots into the main base once again. Very much a bit of a soft contain that he's got on XY. He's still working on that third base, XY is. But Cyan is making it so that he will never be able to land it, as he himself goes for gold.
There we go. 4th base is on the way for Cyan. Meanwhile, we have a missile turret. Unfortunately, it's a couple seconds too late. Never mind. The War Prism doesn't go in quite yet, so it may be able to get a couple of shots off here on the Prism with the slow zone. Will it be enough to really take it down? Potentially.
Yeah, well, it should act as enough of a deterrent anyway before Cyan will really commit to anything into the main base. It's getting a Dark Shrine, by the way.
Oh yeah, Dark Shrine being thrown down as well. Cyan just pulling out all the stops in this PvT. Finally, XY has breaking free from the shackles of his 2 bases. He can expand, he can take a 3rd base. CC is now on the way, and he should be able to get this up and running. He should be able to establish it.
Yeah, he's got a nice spread of tanks here and a whole pretty massive chunk of bio as well. Cyan's gonna have a very hard time trying to shark around, but he's looking to pick off a couple of key units before backing away with his stalkers.
Meanwhile, the Zealots go into the main base. Cyan confirmed that the army was a little bit out of position. The missile turret was not enough to DPS down that War Prism, and not too much damage being done, just lost mining time.
Yeah, lost mining time. He's setting himself up again for a follow-up drop if need be, and I'm appreciating the Haluked Colossus coming in over here, but yeah, I think regardless, XY has enough defenses up and running.
Yeah, 4 Immortals are so exposed here. 1 goes down for free. At the same time, Zealots do get into the mineral line, but the army was close enough that they kind of pulled aggro on all these Zealots, and only 2 SCVs went down.
Yeah, I feel like Cyan has been setting up some really, really great engages, but for whatever reason just has never been able to get the execution down. That Warp Prism will finally be taken out. 3 DTs will get dropped. and Cyan is gonna kind of reveal his hand a little here with them.
Yeah, exactly. They were dropped from that prism just in time before the prism went down, but they all got cleaned up anyway. And as you were saying, Cyan started off this game really well, just like being hyper aggressive and pulling apart XY, but you could argue that he's been overly aggressive. He's been throwing away so much. He lost an Immortal for free, the Zealots, the War Prism, the DTs. He's been bleeding out quite a bit.
I wouldn't even argue that. I just agree.
Yeah.
And now Cyan has no splash damage as XY pushes into him. He's just finished up the Robo Bay, but it's still going to take a long time before he gets Colossus or Disruptus up and running. Now, thankfully for Cyan, though, he has been expanding very aggressively. He has a very healthy economy. Can he make use of it is going to be a different question.
I just worry because he may have an economy, but what about the production? Both Robos get depowered. Even with the completion of the Robotics Blade, we will not be seeing any splash damage whatsoever. The army cannot bust on in. 4 tanks are just far too solid, and the Bio army is kind of going undeterred.
It really is, and it has to go undeterred because the entire mineral line of XY has been taken out by something or another.
1 DT.
DT, there we go, 1 DT. That's all you really need to take out 39, 40 plus SCVs. What just killed all that bio?
The DTs. The scan was a little bit too
Wow.
late. We had defensive DTs just absolutely shredding that army. Who needs splash damage, mate, when you got invisible boys?
Well, I would argue Cyan, but he's proving me wrong right now. Started to encroach on the rest of his army. So many immortals that he just kept alive throughout this entire game will now throw their weight around and take out all the tanks.
Wow. I can't believe what I'm seeing here. Cyan with his own variant of Swarm Toss. Again, mass expanding, focusing on his mineral income, not relying too much on splash damage, but not stopping immortal production, which is really interesting. Because of that, they are tank busters, and the DT harass honestly has just won him the game. Like, the economy of XY is in shambles.
Yeah, there's really no way for XY to recover. Not when Cyan has a gold base on top of the 4 additional bases that he's got. XY tried to go for a bit of a drop, but once again, the defensive DTs really proven how valuable they are. A couple of Purification Novas will land on the SCVs, and that's just insult to injury.
Oh my god, we do see a recall all the way back. Hope the Nexus will survive. This is a massive Marauder drop, but with all these Immortals with the Disruptors as well, he will force a hot pickup, and Cyan will defend at the same time. GG gets called! Cyan takes the first game.
Honestly, a very messy game number 1 that went down. A very scrappy map number 1, but that's just kind of what you expect from Blackburn, I suppose. Really could have gone either way, but in the end, Cyan proved that he understood just how important dealing with the economy is.
Yeah, I think scrappy is the right word there, because there were moments where Cyan was doing really well, and then we saw him overextend and, you know, lose a lot of units almost for free at that point. But believe in the power of the DTs. I think we were both shocked when we saw the kill count exceed 40 SCV kills to just a handful of DTs. It was that was crazy.
Yeah, I guess that's what happens when you are parade pushing across the map with your entire army supply and you don't really have too much back home.
And unfortunately, like, it happened to coincide with the fact that he was looking back at home to try and minimize damage and defend against the DTs, where at the same time more DTs showed up and killed his main army. Like, oh my god, DTs were the real MVP there for Cyan.
Definitely, and that was also a game where XY was dealing with limited scans. You know, to catch back up, at least initially, once he realized that he was landing his cert base pretty late, he was trying to mule as much as possible. He had, you know, 1 scan in the chamber for emergencies when he needed 2.
Pretty much, and when he did scan, it was a little bit too late. You know, he had lost all of his momentum across the map, and yeah, that was a great game number 1 there from Cyan. Can he close it out here as we get into game number 2? And again, like, just like the previous series, I don't know if, like, there's a big skill difference between our players. It was just really an unfortunate situation for XY. It was a little bit unlucky.
Yeah, well, it's pretty much a textbook scenario, right? Where you do have 2 players who are very comparable in skill level. So it really comes down to who makes the bigger mistake. And in this case, unfortunately, it was XY.
Yeah. Yeah, like I'm so torn. I'm so torn about that game because like we saw XY doing so well, you know, like cleaning everything up and like deflecting all the aggression in the end, like and for him to fall to DTs, like Terran players, look away.
Yeah.
Just look away.
Yeah, I can tell you've definitely felt the pain, the sting of DTs with Forelight.
Oh yeah. As a Zerg player, sure, I definitely have, of course. But yeah, seeing that happen in this PvT was, you know, just a little bit triggering. You know, some PTSD, some flashbacks.
Yeah, but I do think you've hammered down a pretty important point there, which was XY did look very convincing after defending the initial couple of waves of attack. He was up about 20 army supply with, I believe, 4 tanks and plenty of Marauders, plenty of Marines as well. It really did, unfortunately, come down to those DTs pulling his attention apart. So we'll see if he's able to tighten them up in game number 2. I think this definitely has the potential, this series anyway, definitely has the potential to go to the ace match.
Fingers crossed, mate. Fingers crossed as we are diving into game number 2. You can hear the beeps, people in the chat as we are loading on in. Are we going to the ace match or is it all over here and now?
I hope not.
I have not either. But I also don't want to.
Well,
I don't want to delay Rushi. I saw Rushi in the chat. I was like, oh.
Sorry, Rushi. But we are going to be continuing our series now onto 2,000 atmospheres. LE, we're of course in the top right-hand corner of the map. Spawning all the way in the top right-hand corner, we of course have our red Terran player coming down from the land of China. He is the old boy himself. I think even older than Sequa, but still hanging on regardless. Representing Invictus Gaming, IG, he is XY.
And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of 2,000 atmospheres LE, we have the blue Chinese Protoss player representing Good Game Gaming. GGG! It is Cyan.
Once again, very paranoid of what XY, of a potential XY proxy come down, and I don't blame him at all.
Yeah, he's just scouting around, scouring the map right now, checking both his third locations, just in case there is a hidden proxy, confirming, okay, I'm safe and sound, I can expand.
That's what he thinks. And he thinks that because he's correct.
Yeah, it would have been huge if, like, as the probe was scouting the third base location, XY slips on in and NG blocks. Like, that would have been amazing. That would have been amazing.
It really would have, but yeah, apparently XY just isn't the kind of player to go across the map with his SCVs. He did it once in Blackburn, but now he not only is going for the SCV scout, he's also skipping out on the Reaper.
He's skipping the Reaper and he's skipping the Marine.
XY.
XY. Yeah, 0 units going for a reactor first. My god.
Not even a wall to his main base. He's relying on that SCV to chase away the probe, and he really needs to make sure that Cyan doesn't dip into his base, because we can see he's going for a bit of a cheeky 2-on-1.
Oh no!
The probe!
Oh. Probe, calm down. Oh, SCV should calm down, I should say, as the probe is doing a great job of just being so annoying and delaying the CC. He's going to force another SCV down. The Marine's going to try and keep up, but the SCV goes down!
It's kind of the price you are paying when you go for a reactor first like this without even safety Marine. And XY eventually trades an eye for an eye, a probe for an SCV. But he delays the natural base by quite a while.
He also got a decent amount of scouting information. Quickly looking at the vision of Cyan, sure, he didn't get into the main base, but seeing that it was a reactor first is a little bit of a tell. Like, it's a very specific opener here in TVP. And especially if you're not going for any kind of, like, add-on switch or anything like that, which Cyan confirmed that there wasn't, like, the likelihood of this being a 3-Rax is pretty high.
Yeah, I don't know why I was thinking 2-on-1 in my headline. I think that was just a bit of wishful thinking on my part, but yeah, XY is going for a 3-Rax, which has been known to be very potent on this map, and just earlier on, I think Time might have actually did this against either Maxed or Silky, and it just proved the effectiveness of 3-Rax in TVP.
Oh yeah, it can be terrifying. He's also going for a very specific variant as well. He is prioritizing concussive shell, not stim. So because of this, if Cyan was active out on the map with his stalkers, they immediately get caught out instead of, you know, how they try to slow down the push and chip away at Marines. Basically, this shuts that down, and Cyan can hit across the map even faster and punish those stalkers for being active on the map. But we see Cyan go back home, instead playing this out safer and scouting with his Oracle.
I'm definitely liking this defensive position Cyan is taking, but I think I also like this adaptation on the 3 racks for XY a little bit better, right? Instead of immediately going into a stim, I mean, you just pointed it out, even if you were to stim, you're hurting your own units, and you're kind of leaving them open for stalkers to pick them off as they go across the map. With concussive shells, that's a lot more difficult, but we'll see if that actually comes into play. Oracle will come in and shut down a lot of SCVs. Eventually, the Marines are going to be able to deal with them, but 5 SCVs like this, you cannot afford these losses when you're going for 3 racks like this.
Exactly, but you know what? The 3 racks is across the map. Stim is not done, by the way. Again, that's the downside of this, is that you don't have the power of the stim with your army. But Cyan has read this so well. We have 2 shield batteries, we have 2 pylons as well, so the Marauders can't even focus down and depower the buildings, and they cannot push in at all. They get a pylon here at the 3rd base location, but that is all they get. Oof.
Yeah, meanwhile, this Oracle will get even more SCVs, so who's better off? Definitely the Protoss player.
Yeah, the Oracle has 7 kills made, 6 SCVs and 1 mule, which is crazy. XY has been really struggling to keep up. You know, he hasn't been able to really do too much here with his 3 racks. He was able to contain his opponent to 2 bases, and I guess that's something, but he wanted more.
He needed more. At this point, he's going to try to transition to the mid game, but he's already really far behind. No 3rd in sight right now for XY. I don't think he's playing to build one either.
So okay, there's a couple of upsides here. I know we're talking about how, the 3 racks didn't really work out, but what's important is that XY has kept the majority of his units alive. If we look at the units lost tab, only 2 Marines have died here for XY. He's lost a lot of workers, sure, but his army has remained strong. And what's important is that he didn't overly commit, he didn't overextend, he hasn't thrown it away. So this can come into play for a follow-up timing. Stim is finally finishing up. +1 is finishing up. Medevacs are on the way as well, so XY will have a follow-up available.
Yeah, my eyes are definitely a bit more on Cyan right now to see how he's going to be able to defend against this. He's gotten a lot more stalkers. He's working on charge as well. Robo facility feels like it's a little bit late.
Well, I mean, the robot was late. It's still being made, actually.
Yeah.
I thought for a moment there as well, it's like, is that the 2nd robo? Is it going to go into, like, double robo production? But no, this is the 1st one. So, because Cyan was playing so safe, and because he went for the Stargate first, like, this will delay any kind of splash damage, which means that, again, that, like, fire push can work wonders, you know? Without Colossus and without Disruptors, like, XY can get something done. Oh, not like this, though.
Oh, yeah, these stalkers are primed to blink right on top of these medevacs. They will immediately take one of them out before it can land the majority of its bio, and these Marines, man, they're just sitting ducks at this point.
Exactly. We do see the rest of the Marauders try to shut this down, and they will get 1 Stalker, but only 1 for the time being. The double drop completely shut down.
What were we saying earlier online about the fact that the army was alive is a massive opportunity for XY in the blink of an eye, in the blink of some stalkers. He just gave up that opportunity, and not all hope is lost, in fairness. +1 weapons is finishing up for XY. He has a tank now, but that advantage that he had has just very much narrowed out.
It really has. I didn't want to look at it, but looking at the units lost tab, we went from 2 Marines dead to 20 Marines dead. That's a lot of Marines. So Cyan just completely clipped the wings of XY, literally and figuratively. XY, he's stuck at home. He has to try and expand and take this 3rd base, and he has to slow things down. Any kind of timing that he wanted to hit earlier, I don't think it's going to work here. He's going to have to think further ahead instead.
And this is not the worst case scenario. This isn't doomsday right now for XY, but I do know that XY doesn't like being caged like this, you know? He likes being aggressive. He likes being on the map. He loves his freedom. being forced to play from a defensive location where you can't roam around, that's not a scenario that XY just enjoys playing, and that's something that you don't want to underestimate the impact that it can really have on the players.
Yeah, forcing your opponent to be uncomfortable in their playstyle is huge. And we'll see if XY can adapt here. I do like that, again, he's just been chilling at home, he's fortifying himself, he's got his tanks, he's got missile turrets, his fourth base is on the way, again, slowing things down. But because he's forced to do this, Cyan, he got away with delaying his splash damage. Now Colossus are coming out. Disruptors as well. One of each at a time with double robo production. External lances on the way. The longer this goes on, I feel like the better it is for Cyan. But again, we'll see, because it will still come down to that big engagement to the control.
Yeah, there's nothing really prompting Cyan right now to, feel like he has to push into, or there's nothing really prompting Cyan to make him feel like he has to push into XY until now, as a couple of drops on the map are gonna keep him guessing. Behind all of this, Cyan, he's, like you said, just rounding off his army while he secures his economy. A fifth base is about to finish up for him.
Yeah, crazy. Fifth base on the way, whereas the fourth is still finishing up for XY. Cyan running away with the economy, running away with the tech. We even have a Dark Shrine on the way as well. You could argue that Cyan is still lacking maybe a little bit with his army. Like, he could do with a couple more Colossus and a couple more Disruptors. But again, Cyan isn't really looking for a big fight at the moment, as, the army does get spotted. Cyan, he's on the way.
Yeah, can XY deny that fifth base regardless? Probably not. Trying to see what he can get done here, and he decides not a whole lot when there are these many Stalkers in the mix.
Yeah, exactly. XY was trying to deny the fifth base, but he was spotted, forced to go all the way back home. What's a little bit scary is that a lot of the tanks, okay, they were at the third base, but they are being repositioned. They are rotating over. I would love to see some sensor towers here for XY, because his army is very immobile. These tanks take a long time to go between bases, and they cannot afford to be out of position.
Yeah, you definitely need that heads up as early as possible. So I'm glad that he's throwing down one of them right now. A little bit of an unfortunate placement there on one of the missile turrets.
Yeah, exactly. Meanwhile, the sensor tower will finish up here towards the fourth base location. So now he has a little bit of a better idea as to where the army is. Tries to go for a bit of a run by, is spotted by the observer, so has to be really careful with his marauder movement.
And we've gotten to the point where, XY was able to slow down the game long enough to now both players are maxed out. The question is, who has the better army? I slightly favor Cyan, because he does have a lot of diverse forms of AoE right now, but at the same time, it feels like XY should win a defensive engagement.
Yeah,
no matter what.
If his tanks are in position, mate, his tanks are not here at the third base. They're they're nowhere to be found. The rest of the army is trying to rotate over, but the Nova goes off.
Yeah, very good target firing on top of some of these Disruptors. XY is able to cancel some of the Purification Novas, but not enough of them. Meanwhile, run by Zealots, really going to mess up the mineral line by this fourth base location. When it's all said and done, Cyan gets a couple of SCV kills. Doesn't lose too many of his high-tech units either. I say that as one Colossus goes down.
Yeah, Cyan for one moment wasn't paying attention to his army. Will lose one Colossus, but the Zealots, they go for the fourth base. They go into the natural as well. 24 SCVs go down. Aye. I'm feeling a little bit of a repeat of game one. This time not because of DTs though, because of Zealots.
Yeah, close enough. What are DTs if not just invisible Zealots, with blink instead of charge?
Exactly.
Okay, so I guess there is a pretty big difference.
a little bit. Also, something that I wanted to say, but I really couldn't, as the fight was happening, we have a transition into Sky Toss. Stargates are on the way, Fleet Beacon as well. Cyan is looking to take flight and go into carriers, but is the transition too soon?
It definitely may be. Purification Novas will land on top of a decent number of these tanks. There are plenty of Colossus here. Arguably too many, though. It's not much of a buffer for them.
Exactly. We need more Zealots, Papa. We need Zealots. We need Archons. We need anything else. Overcharge is going to be keeping these Archons, these Colossus alive a little bit longer. There's a lot of Marauders, mate.
And they're stimming right on forward. XY just right-clicking these Colossus, taking them out immediately. The Disruptors from earlier on were deleted, so they're not here to help in the engagement. XY getting even more SCV kills. So this push of XY is going to be all he's got left, and he's making full use of it.
Exactly. Meanwhile, across the map, DTs are dealing even more damage. XY's economy is basically non-existent, but he does get on top of the robos. He will depower everything. No more disruptors, no more Colossus. But again, Cyan, he's making Tempest.
What troops up here? For
There's one Viking?
One Viking, like 3 Marines that have counted, 4 of them, potentially.
Looking at the unit tab, okay, we have 4 Vikings in total. Is that going to be enough? We have a blink on forward, 1 tank goes down immediately. We do see XY, he's trying to go into the main base, but again, that is where the Tempests pop out.
Yeah, Cyan can definitely defend now that all the tanks have been taken out. Vikings are going to do whatever they can. Plenty of Marauders here that just barely tickle the Zealots. It is not going to be enough. GG is called, and Cyan will take that series 2-0.